I see Jen Hodge there. I was shocked to see
Yes,
you. Haven't seen you for a while.
Yeah, it
Hi.
has been a while. Great to
Yeah,
see you guys.
nice to
Yeah,
have you here.
I'm glad to be back. I've been I most typically have brunch gigs on Sundays these days, but unfortunately I'm out of commission with COVID, but that means I get to join
Oh,
you guys.
oh,
what?
wow.
I thought
Oh,
your
you
voice sounds a little different.
Yeah, I'm sick, but
Oh,
this is the last one before the summer, right? So
right.
glad I could swoop in and catch it and see you guys.
Awesome.
Yeah.
How long or when were you first diagnosed with it?
Just last night.
Oh,
Yeah. So I would have had two gigs today that I've had to sub out of.
oh,
I'm still working on getting the rest of the stuff I was booked for this week covered, but
right.
it's honestly like the worst thing about having it right now feels like missing out on stuff. Like I'm not
Right.
deathly ill or anything like that. So,
Yeah.
it could be worse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My wife and I got it just before Easter, and we had, of course, cancel the Easter plans with the family, but it just seemed to linger on for 3 or 4 weeks, like the
Oh,
cough. And
no.
I don't want to scare you with it, but some people it does, and other people it doesn't.
Yeah, I have to be mentally prepared. The first day that I'm on track to be able to re-enter society is a day that I'm supposed to fly to the West Coast for a friend's wedding. So
Oh,
I'm trying to like mentally prepare for like, okay, if I'm still testing positive by then, I'm just gonna have to miss the trip, and like
oh,
hopefully that's not what happens, but
no.
we'll see.
yeah.
Where are you now, Jen? You in New York?
I am, yeah.
So there's a lot of it around there, isn't there?
Yeah, it's
Doesn't-
honestly, I'm kind of amazed that I avoided it for as long as I did because my line of work has me in lots of crowded places all the time, just full of random people who knows where they've come from or whatever. So like, yeah, I've come through unscathed in multiple outbreaks in my community of musicians and stuff, but like, there's been since I came back here last July, there's been so many times where like lots of people I know have had it, or my roommates had it twice since I've been here, and I never got it. So it finally got me.
I have a question for Jen.
Yeah.
It's something I just read recently on the news. Like, how do you afford to live in New York City? Like,
Well, do you know living expenses are much lower in New York than they were in Vancouver, so
Oh, really?
Celtic degrees.
yeah, yeah, I think the reputation that New York has for being very expensive probably comes from it's like lingers maybe from a time when the real estate shot up a lot really quickly, like it's been happening on the West Coast for the past 10 years or so. Um, the apartment I live in now is rent controlled, which doesn't exist in Vancouver or Seattle. So,
Oh,
like, that kind of thing is possible to find here. There's also just there's a lot of work, and like you can spend a lot of money on things like food in New York, but if you know where to go and you like find your places, then you can live pretty inexpensively, I think. And
that's
I don't
great.
need to have a car out here, which saves me a lot too.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can get
Uh,
anywhere I need to go at whatever time of the day or night. I can just take transit, which
That's
is
great.
yeah.
Okay, we're going to have to get started soon.
Yep,
I
we're
just see
good.
that
There's nobody
Richard
waiting, so
Banville has logged on. Richard, are you receiving us? We don't see a picture of you. I'd rather deal with your issues now.
he's muted at the moment.
Yes, okay.
Shall I
Maybe you can
leave it
send
like
us a
that?
chat.
Yep. Yep. Okay. So I should just press on mic.
Okay. So, Mike, I guess we've got everybody admitted.
Yep, everybody's in for the moment.
That's great.
I'll look out for anybody else.
Well, again, thank you everybody for joining us today. This is our last meeting of the season, and we'll resume again in September. And it's a beautiful day here. It probably is where you are. So I appreciate you taking the time out this afternoon to join us. As you probably all know, I'm Mike DeCecco, president of the Canadian Antique Phonograph Society, and I'm located out on the west end of Toronto. And what I thought we would do is give you a brief overview of what we're going to cover today with the meeting, and then get on to it quickly. I'd like to try to move things along fast today so that we don't waste any time. Richard, you're there. Same problem as last time. Okay.
He's muted at the moment.
So, Richard, what I'd like you to do is, you don't have to say anything, just listen to the presentation. And if you want to communicate with us, then just chat, like send a chat to me and we'll make sure that you get addressed. Okay, thanks. So I'm going to continue on now. With today's agenda, you've all got the invitation, so I'll just go over it quickly. First thing we're going to deal with will be the CAPS election. This happens once every 3 years, and we've never done it in a format like this before, so it's new for us. And after the election process, we're going to have Matthew Davidson in Nova Scotia talk about a really neat video that he's done about novelty piano ragtime. And then Mike Bryant is going to show us a gramophone of his, gramophone, graphanola, whatever you want to call it, that sort of segues into what Matthew was covering. And then I'm going to give you a little presentation about a really unique record changer that I found from 1931. I think you'll like it too. So, and after that, we take a short break and we'll get to our auction. And there's not a lot of things in the auction today, but there's some pretty good stuff. So before we move on, we normally cover just a few ground rules. We first of all ask if there's any new members or guests today. Just now, how are we going to get them to speak up? Maybe there is a way you can raise your hand with reactions. On my screen, it's on the bottom right-hand side as you hold your mouse over it.
They can unmute themselves.
Okay, yeah, or unmute yourself and just say hello.
In the bottom left-hand corner.
Okay.
By the way, guys, I'm all set.
All right, Richard. Thank you for
Okay.
joining us.
Sure.
Yay. So in regards to new members, Bill sent me a list of 4 new members that have joined us recently. I didn't get a chance to write to them, but one of them might be here today. If not, do we have any visitors who'd like to say hello for the first time? No? Okay, then we'll quickly move on. Does anyone have an announcement that they'd like to make? You have to unmute yourself to make the announcement.
So
Just one quick thing, Mike.
Sure.
I'm gonna be with you guys until the end of December, and then I probably will be removing my membership at that point. But between now and the end of December, I'm still glad to be part of the CAPS, and
Right.
I hope if it's meant to be, I'll find that remaining 16 2/3 VXL piano concertos, VXL 6. That is.
Okay.
That's it.
I hope it's nothing I've said. No? Okay. Richard first joined us looking for a series of 16 RPM records, and he's gotten all of them except the one that he mentioned. So I guess he's done all that he can with CAPS, but it's nice of you to join us for every meeting that we have. Anyone else have an announcement they'd like to make? No? Nothing on your mind?
There was just one thing. I wasn't able to make the last meeting, but I was able to watch it on YouTube, and it was great. And I just like to say that all that information that Paul gave is just absolutely brilliant. He still astounds me as how informative he is about just about anything phonograph related.
Thank you. And it's also spur of the moment.
Right? Yeah, off the top of his head.
Yeah.
You know, I wish I were that sharp on the best. Now, you did mention that recording that I bought from Jen. Hi, Jen. About the royal speech by King George VI.
Amazing.
So I wanted to add something to that. I think you mentioned that I may have the only copy. It's actually in the Government of Canada archives.
Oh, it is?
Yeah. However, you have to pay to get it. But what makes my copy, I think, unique is that whomever was recording it actually in Regina left the machine running so you could hear what went on after God Save the King at the end. So you get to hear the sign-off, the CBC sign-off. And of course, a lot of times when programs don't end on time, you have to fill in to make it to the top of the hour for when the next scheduled programming begins. So what I have is an introduction to the CBC I guess they call them the concert orchestra, which might have morphed into the CBC Symphony Orchestra 20 years later. And they do selections from Faust.
Wow.
Yeah, and also, and I don't know why I forgot to mention this, I have this in my collection. This is a British home recording, and it's on aluminum with a lacquer coating, and it's a recording actually of my two great uncles.
Oh.
In Britain at that time, I think this was recorded in the late 1940s or maybe even the early 1950s. You could actually rent a machine to bring home and record your family, whatever gatherings, or you could go to a gramophone shop, and some of the better ones had little makeup studios in the background with a recording machine. So you could rent their piano and maybe a couple of your instruments and sing along. So yeah, I'm pretty happy to have this. My two great uncles.
That's amazing. Where did you end up getting it?
This recording?
Yes.
Oh, when I was a child, my great uncle gave it to me, and that's how he explained it. The other one, unfortunately, he passed away before I was born, but that's my Uncle Robbie and Uncle Jimmy. So Jimmy was able to explain how you could, before tape recorders, how you made home recordings.
Right. It's an interesting field. I always enjoyed it, and you come across these little, I think like 5-inch acetate discs or whatever, the home recordings on it, and people singing songs or whatever. It's really neat.
Right, that's it.
Thank you. Any other announcements from anyone? No? Okay. Then we'll move on quickly now. I'm going to address the elections. So once every 5 years, 3 years,
Yes.
3 years, right? 5 would be way too long. We have our general elections for the CAPS executive. And the executive is what really keeps this club running, along with everybody else who joins us. But on the executive, we'll deal with issues that come up. An example would be when we were having the meetings at Centennial College, suddenly they were going to charge a fee for parking. So we had to deal with them and talk to them and fixed it so that our members would get free parking. Things like that come up, or just how we're going to do the newsletter and setting up the meetings and just keep the club running. So everything in CAPS is volunteer. Nobody gets paid for all the time they put into it. And we've really had some fabulous people over the years. And I actually have a list. Bill keeps a list of everybody who's had a position at CAPS. It's really interesting to see over the years as people have progressed. So what we normally do is we meet at Centennial College, and then the people are up there in front who are running. And then we have nominations, and then we have a show of hands, and lo and behold, they usually get voted in. So we can't really do it the same way today, since we're doing it with the Zoom format. So we're going to take a bit of a different approach in that I'll talk about who has agreed to stand for the position, and then I'll just ask if anybody objects to that. And we can take it from there. So the first position that I'd like to start with is our auction manager and auctioneer. And Mike Bryan has kindly agreed to stand in for both positions. And he's been doing a great job as our Zoom auctioneer, as you've seen here. And he'd previously done the live auctions when we're at Centennial College. He's also our Zoom administrator and keeps this whole meeting, as you're seeing today, running. And there's a lot going on behind the scenes, and I can't thank him enough for it. And I have to also give credit that Mike was the one who came up with the idea that we continue the CAPS meetings on Zoom and really got the ball rolling on that. So thank you for that, Mike. You'll recall too that Mike has been past president of CAPS and did a great job there too. So I want to nominate Mike for this role and ask if there's anyone who objects to Mike filling in this role. You can shake your head or whatever, no, or unmute yourself. And maybe I should add a proviso. Probably if you object, then I'm going to look for someone else to fill that role. It might be you. Maybe, maybe. I'm just joking. But Mike, thank you for agreeing to stand for the position of auction manager and auctioneer, and look forward to working with you over the next several years. And again, thank you for all your contributions to CAPS.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. I'm happy to do it. It's a lot of fun.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, our second position is for the APN, that's Antique Phonograph News Editor, as well as Program Convener. And Mark Caruana has been doing both those roles for the past 3 years, and he's agreed to continue doing these both very important roles for the club. I think personally he's done a fabulous job with the newsletter. We get so many compliments about it, and especially since we've gone to color, but not just the wonderful layout of it, but the quality of the material. And you can see that Mark really networks a lot with people, and somehow he always manages to find enough to fill the magazine. And when we do the in-person meetings, he's always got interesting speakers for us there too. So again, Mark's been doing this for a number of years. And for many of our members, the only contact they have with this club is that newsletter. For whatever reason, either they don't join the Zoom meetings or don't come to an in-person meeting. It's really just that newsletter. So that's what keeps them as members. And can't thank Mark enough for all he's done over the years. And again, Mark has agreed to fill in for both positions. So is there anyone who objects to that? 1, 2, 3. No. So I'd like to thank Mark. Mark, where are you? Can you come forward and say hello? Are you there? He was there earlier.
He's got no video. I don't know if I can.
Can you see if he's there, Mike?
Yeah, he's there, but his video and mic is off. I don't know if I can ask. I can ask him to start his video, which I've done.
Well, or we can maybe later on have him come and say something.
Yeah, perhaps he's shy today.
If he's not available right now. Okay, well, we'll move on. But thank you, Mark, for agreeing to continue on in both those very important positions. And especially as we start to do the meetings at Centennial, it'll be all the more important that he looks after the role of program convener. And I'm sure we'll get some interesting people there. And I'm going to be talking about potential meetings in September in a few moments when we finish the election. So our third executive role is that of, it's called membership/treasurer. And Bill Pratt's been doing this role. Bill, I'm not trying to age you or date you, but I'm guessing roughly 30 years. I'm sure you've got the exact date.
Closer to 40 years.
How long is that?
Closer to 40 years.
40 years. That's like back to the beginning of this club pretty well. But that just shows your devotion and dedication to keeping CAPS running. And it's hard to summarize in a few words everything that Bill does because there's so much behind the scenes that goes on. I'm thinking of things like he created and maintains the website that everybody can log on to. He keeps track of all kinds of membership records and stats. He surprised me one time. He showed me for every meeting that was ever held for the club, he's got a list of almost everybody who's attended. It's that detailed. And of course, who's been in what role for the various positions in the executive, and just fabulous stats on our finances, what money comes in, what money goes out. Again, CAPS is a not-for-profit club, so we have to have enough money coming in to keep the club running, but we're not doing it to make profit per se, just enough to cover all the expenses, and the biggest expense is the newsletter. So I can't thank Bill enough for everything he does, and I would hate to think of CAPS without Bill. And he has kindly agreed to fill in for another 3 years in the two important roles. And so I'd like to ask again if there's anybody who objects to Bill continuing on as treasurer and membership. No. Bill, thank you again. Would you like to say a word or two for us?
Just thanks you, Mike, for the kind words. I enjoy this work enormously. I would miss it if I weren't doing it. Thanks.
We'd certainly miss you. Thank you. Moving on now, the fourth role is that of vice president. And Gareth Boardman has been filling the position for the last 3 years. I wanted to thank him for all he's done. It's been great having a fresh voice on the executive, and he's always making interesting comments and just gives a different perspective on the role. But Gareth is going to move on to other things, and so we needed someone to fill the role, and kindly Brian Nix has agreed to stand in for the position. Most of you know Brian for the numerous repairs that he does as a gramophone doctor. and he's got a wealth of information and knowledge, and he's continues to learn himself. And I think it's really great that he's continuing in his father's Bob's footsteps in joining the executive for CAPS. So it's really nice to have a new face at CAPS on the executive, and he'll just give us a different way of looking at things sometimes, or like, did you consider this, or what about that? And Brian's a really nice guy to talk to. You've seen presentations of him here. So I'd like to nominate Brian as vice president and ask if there's anybody who objects. Brian, are you with us today?
No, he's not, Mike.
He's not? Okay. But he knows that he's going to be in the role.
Yeah.
So, and then there's the last position we have to do. So Mike, I think you're going to carry on.
Yes, okay. Well, of course, the last position is that of president, and Mike DiCecco has done a fantastic job for the last 3 years in keeping this running, and it's been great because Mike has done previous roles. He was editor of APN at one time, and Mike, I didn't check on other things. Forgive me if
Vice president.
Oh, well, vice president, of course,
Yeah.
before president, but and you've been president before, haven't you, as well? So
yes.
So there's, as you can see, there's a few of us who have just been exchanging roles over the years, and that's not, I really want to say that's not because we want to run this as a clique. We would be absolutely delighted to welcome new people in, as we are with Brian Nix now. And, you know, as much as we like fulfilling the roles that we're doing, we're very happy if other people will step up and, you know, just volunteer and get their feet wet to start with, and then perhaps take these things over in time. None of the work is particularly onerous. It is a responsibility, and we do take it seriously. But as others have said, it's a lot of fun as well. We only do it because we enjoy it. It's our hobby. It's fun, and we learn a lot while we're doing it as well. And Mike has led us for the last 3 years, and he has agreed to run for another 3 years. And I would really like to support him and nominate him and thank him for the fantastic job that he's already done, and the one that he will continue doing for the next 3 years. So again, I just have to ask if there's any objections to that. If anybody feels that somebody else should be president, or that they would like to be president, we can certainly talk about it. But now's your chance to speak or hold your peace. No, in that case, the nomination is successful, and Mike DiCecco will be our president for the next 3 years. Congratulations, Mike, and thank you very much.
Thanks, Mike. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. And I see that Mark Caruana has joined us. So we tried to get you in there earlier, Mark.
Yeah, someone was at my door twice.
No. I just thank you for all you do as program convener and the APN editor, and the fabulous job you've done. And you passed the nomination. Another 3 years.
Oh boy.
when I
How
first,
lucky can a guy get?
I like when I first asked Mark, well, will you continue on in these roles? And he says, you mean I can quit? No, you can't. Anyway, fabulous job, Mark. Thank you again.
Thanks very much. I really appreciate it.
And before we end the election process, I just thought I should mention too, we've dealt with the executive today, and we also have a list of volunteers. And I'm just looking at a copy of our newsletter, just to give you an idea of the other people who also contribute behind the scenes. We have the APN copy editor, that's Arthur Zimmerman. Arthur will go over any article that is printed in the magazine. Usually the writer will type it up and it goes to Arthur, and he corrects the grammar, makes it look perfect. And so Arthur, we thank you for all the help you've done over the years. We call you a wordsmith, and you're fabulous at what you do. Thank you. I'm listed as the APN content editor, which I'm not sure how I got that role, but basically I try to get people to contribute to the newsletter. And the APN layout and design is done by Mark Caruana. There's a lot of work in that, and fitting everything properly onto the page and making it look good. Meeting reporters. We had Don Colvin doing our meetings for us. Don, you did a great job. I know I see you there today. And also Norman Brooks has been sort of taking on the torch from Don. And I really like the summaries that Norman's doing of the meetings, gets to the point and basically what we covered. So thank you to both you gentlemen. We've got auctioneer and Zoom administrator, that's Mike Bryan. And as we said, Mike will be carrying on the auctioneer role along with the auction manager role. Catering is, that role is done by Peter Hopkins when we're at the Centennial College, and Peter brings in coffee and snacks and things for us and looks after us. And we have a 50-50 draw done by Don Kelly, which raises money for the club. Audiovisual is done by Mark Caruana, and that's really helps keep everything rolling in terms of the Zoom meetings. And also when we do the in-person meetings too, he gets the projectors running and all the internet stuff. We have internet media as Jeremy Hopkins. And thank you again for keeping things going online for us. And the website is run by Bill Pratt. So I'd like to say a very warm thank you to everybody who helps out at CAPS in the executive and the volunteer positions. And we couldn't continue on without you. So thank you very much.
I'd just like to add to that.
Please do.
I want to thank Bill Pratt because the APN, although I'm editor, I frequently try different things and I always run them by Bill because his advice really helps me get things right. He also takes a really thorough look through it before it goes to press and makes sure everything just lines up and looks right. So a lot of things are caught by him, which make our publication look much more professional. And also when I make changes like color and things like that, he'll look at it, give me really good advice on that. So thanks a lot to Bill Pratt.
And I think that's sort of what I was saying about Bill before. There's so many behind the scene things that he does a lot of people don't even know about. And it's just little bits like that. Must be very time consuming, but Bill, it really pays off and it's appreciated. Okay, so what I thought we'd do now is move on to our presentations for today. And just the little advertising plug here, as a reminder, we're going to give both Mike Bryan and Matthew Davidson a package of Burmese colored thorn needles, and many thanks for doing the presentations. And the needles come courtesy of Steve O'Neill and Anthony Briggs of Burmese colored needles in England. And what I keep hearing fabulous feedback about these needles. I've got some myself, but you'll even see in the video I'm showing later, this guy in the States who's using this changer, he's using one of these thorn needles. So a lot of people like them and the sound from them, and apparently less destructive for the record. So thanks again for both doing the presentations and also for giving us the needles. So we're going to start off with Matthew Davidson. And Matthew, would you like to give an introduction to the video that you're going to show? I saw you. There you are. We can't hear you, Matthew. We can see you, and you're unmuted. There you are.
No. Yeah, he's on.
Okay. Still don't have any audio from you.
His mic's working.
Yes, I see that.
Or it's open, at least it's not muted.
Okay. Matthew, looks like he's playing with some controls on his screen.
You can switch your mic input in case he's got the wrong mic input. At the bottom of your screen where you see mute, there's a little up arrow.
Oh, right.
If you click on that, the top should say select a microphone. And so it might be set to the wrong input.
And I find sometimes too, I hop back and forth between the microphone and the headset and the one on the computer.
Yeah, I do that.
The one on the computer never sounds quite as good.
Yeah.
Okay, maybe what I can do is tell you a bit about the presentation itself. I asked Matthew if he'd like to show anything to us, and a lot of you may know that Matthew's in Nova Scotia, and he's got a professional background in ragtime piano amongst a wide genre of music. And this fabulous musician, he's made multiple CDs, written numerous informative articles, and I think one of his specialties is what they call novelty ragtime piano. So he's put together this video of various performers of the genre and woven them all together. And that's why I had hoped that Matthew could talk a little bit more about it. Matthew, I see you're still looking at your screen, so you're figuring something out there. And maybe what we can do instead is show the video, and then hopefully by then Matthew might have the audio figured out. And if not, Matthew, if you can't figure it out, you can always just send me a little chat about something that you'd like to say, and then I can read it out. So, okay. Mike Bryan, could I have you cue Matthew's
video? Let me see if I can find it. Right, it's not that one.
No.
No, it's Not that one. Yeah, I said I was going to have a problem finding this, didn't I?
Things always happen, eh?
There we go.
There we go.
I don't hear any sound.
I can hear sound.
Oh.
Jen, do you know anything about this genre of music that you could add since you're a
Oh.
professional musician?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not nearly as knowledgeable in that realm as Matthew is, but I was familiar with a lot of the people that were shown in there, and it was great to hear your playing, Matthew, on the video. Sounds so great.
He is very good. Would anyone else like to make comments about either the video or the musicians, the type of music?
I thought it was a very good video seeing I love that piano music. It was very,
Yes.
very good. You guys did a great job. I'm glad to see everybody too, by the way. I just thought I'd let you all know. Good
Thank
to see
you,
you all.
Richard. Okay, so if there's no further comments, we'll move on to our next presentation, which will be done by Mike Bryant. So he's going to show a very unique phonograph in his collection. I've seen it a couple of times when I've been at his house, and I thought, how's a Columbia phonograph going to tie in with what Matthew just did? There is a segue that we sort of worked in here. So Mike, I'll let you take it away and explain this very interesting phonograph.
Okay, well, thank
Thank
you,
you.
Mike. I'll give a bit of a run up to it.
Okay.
So I'm going to start with a bit of a slideshow here, if I can find it. Not that one. We've finished that. So I close that and open this. Right. Can everybody see that? Yep. Can you see?
Yes, we can.
Yeah. PowerPoint. Let me just. I had already set it on slideshow, but that's better. Just getting it shaped for this particular presentation, so you can see that all right. Yeah. But
yes.
I'll move the bar to the top. Right. Okay. So let's just do a little bit of an introduction to get us to where we're going, and think about the phonographs that were produced in the early 1900s. So really from about 1900 to 1910, when the mass market of phonographs took off, there were many different types of machines, but also many different types of horns. And of course, the principle at play there was good, better, best. We can sell you this phonograph with the standard horn, of course, sir or madam, but look what you would get if you bought this bigger horn, or this wooden horn, or this flowered horn. You know, won't it look so much better in your living room? Won't it sound so much better than the basic one? So, you know, the basic principles of marketing were certainly in play from very early on, and we see here the little cone horn on the gem, the normal type of brass bell and black horn that we saw similar things on Edison and Victor machines and Columbia machines. That was a standard type of horn. And then the wooden horn on the right, of course, would have been very expensive and probably cost more than the smaller phonographs. And
Mike, can I interject for a minute? Can you talk just a little bit louder, please? Maybe closer to the microphone. Your voice is just very low.
Is it? Okay. Does that help? Does that help there?
Yes, it does.
Yeah.
Thank
okay.
you.
I'll be close. Great.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah. Okay. No problem. So then the next one. So bottom left, we see an Edison home with a standard witch hat horn, and but then of course you could have bought the next phonograph, the Fireside, with the Signet horn, which not only looks great, but produced a lot of sound as well. Very good sounding instrument. And I think an Edison standard there with one of the many variations in color and style and flowers and so on that you would see on what we call the Morning Glory horn. So this was all going on from about 1900 to 1910, and this was quite important because just like the first big screen TVs, you wanted all your neighbors and visitors to know that you got one of these fancy new toys. So people were very happy to have these things sticking out into the room and taking up a bit of space. Right, how do I move to the next slide? Oh, there we go. So at the top of the range was the Victor 6. So in about 1906, here was a wonderful machine with a wooden horn that would have sounded mellow and wonderful. And I think the Victor 6 cost about $125 at that time, just to give you some perspective on cost. But after a while, Victor began to realize that there was a whole section of the community, the sort of upper class really, who found these phonograph things a bit vulgar, a bit ugly, didn't seem to fit in with the style of their furniture and their decor in general. And so in 1906, very early on actually, Victor introduced the Victrola 16. In fact, it was the first of the Victrola line. Not sure if everybody knows this, but we have the Victor outside horn phonographs, but everything that had a horn inside was branded Victor Victrola, or VV, as you see there in the initial designation there. The Victor Victrola 16, introduced in 1906. So this was very early on, and as I say, the whole idea was to attract a more upmarket kind of customer who would see this as an item of furniture that they would be happy to fit into their home decor. So over the next few years, Victor and Edison and Columbia introduced many small lidless machines, larger lidless machines, upright floor models, and so on. Let's just see. So there's a Columbia at the top left, a Victor, and a Columbia floor model below that, a Victor in the middle at the top there, and I think it's a Victor 9 or 11, and a similar floor model style below that. And even Edison got into the name with, at the top right there, the Edison Amberola and the diamond disc machine that he introduced later on. So this was this trend was catching on, and it you know, it was the way to go. We'd got past showing off the fancy horn, and we just wanted to have this nice piece of furniture blending in with everything else in the room. But then all of a sudden, Columbia decided to stretch this principle of look like furniture a little bit further. And their first answer, in as early as 1907, in fact, it was their answer to the Victrola 16, was this machine, the Columbia Symphony Grand, in 1907. So as you can see, you just lifted up the lid where you would normally find the keys, and there you have the phonograph itself. So this looked, although it was called, this is odd, it was called a Symphony Grand, but it's not like a Symphony Grand, is it? It's like an upright piano. So then they introduced the following year, they did introduce a machine that they called the Symphony Upright. Now, I can't find any pictures anywhere of the Symphony Upright, but it is not an upright piano. It's just a floor model phonograph with a strange, rather tapered lid. So it's really quite odd. But anyway, it was more like the Victrolas and the Grafenola basic style. Let's see what we have here. So by about this time, sort of 1909, 1910, I'm not quite sure when this ad is from, I think it might be a bit later, but you can see that the trend had changed, and now we were into small lidless machines to lidded tabletop machines, and then floor model machines, and even fancier, grander floor model machines. So the trend was well established as we got past 1910, I would say. So by the way, the first machine that I mentioned earlier there was at $200. I'd mentioned that the Victor 6, you know, the creme de la creme of the outside horn phonographs, was I think $125 or maybe $150. But in going for the upmarket market, you know, the more well-off market, they were quite happy to price these machines to move them up to $200. So you know, and the whole style was elegant people in formal evening attire, seated in palatial surroundings, listening to the Symphony Grand and so on. So although this was, you know, a good idea, I'm not sure how well these things really took on. Columbia tried a few other graphanolas as well. They had one, as you see there on the left, as a kind of occasional table, another one as a side table with a desk, and then the big desk itself. So all of these were introduced between 1909 and 1912 in trying to take that principle further, that a phonograph can be disguised as anything you like, and therefore can be made to fit in with your decor. These machines vary between $150 and I think for the desk $200. So they were quite expensive. So then we get to 1912. And at that point, Columbia introduced the Graphanola Grand, and this was now at the whopping price of $500. It was an electric machine, the first deluxe home electric phonograph to be produced, and as I say, it was $500. It was automatic, and it was big. It was, I think, 42 inches high, 33 inches wide, and 41 inches deep. And it came, I mean, for your $500, you got a good deal. Well, maybe. First of all, it was electric, as I mentioned. The turntable would start when you moved the reproducer towards the beginning of the record, and then at the end it would turn off automatically. There was a drawer under the lid for the extra reproducer that they provided with it. It came with a 5 and a 6 reproducer. Came with an oil can, a fiber needle cutter, a screwdriver, pliers, a logbook for listing your records, a full set of leather record albums, a leather prospectus, they say. I'm not quite sure what that was, and even an embossed plush scarf to protect the top when you put records on the top. And of course at the front it has the louvers for the volume control and storage for records each side. So I'm going to show you a video now of mine. I think that was the last, or there's another picture of it, and I'll show you a video. So let's just go to close that and stop share and that's because I had to close that first. Bear with me a second while I deal with the... Stop sharing it. Right, I need to close it.
That's why I'm glad Mike looks after the technical end of things. All I have to do is sit here and talk.
Right, and hang on, the next bit. Let's see if we can do this, a portion of the screen. Yeah. And I need that. Yeah, I think we can do it. So here is my Columbia Graphanola Grand. Ooh, as you can see, it looks like a grand piano, and it's very large. It was made in 1912, and it cost the whopping price of $500, which was a huge amount of money at the time. Let's have a closer look. So here in the front we see the louvers, which of course are the sound control, or the volume control, and at either side there are two doors. They would have originally held the leather-bound albums that were included with this. I have some records in there, but they're not the original albums, of course. And then let's have a look under the lid. But I should mention, of course, that this was the first electric-only machine that Columbia had introduced. And in fact, I'm not sure if there were any others at all. So for the deluxe market, here was the introduction of a plug-in phonograph for the first time. Let's have a look inside. So if I lift the lid up, I'm going to put the stay there to hold it up. One thing that should be working, but I'm afraid it doesn't, is this little knob here should release when the lid is lifted up. So I'm going to pull it up, and as you could probably see, the light turned on. So what do we have under the lid? We've got, first of all, there's a drawer here. I'll just keep some spare bulbs in that, but that was originally for the spare reproducer that came with it. Came with the 5 and 6 reproducer. Also we see, of course, all the gold-plated parts under the lid here. Over the other side there, we've got the needle containers for loud, medium and soft and fiber needles as well. And on this side we've got the lights, we've got a speed indicator, we've got the speed control, and let's give it a spin. So it should happen automatically. This one is not perhaps quite as automatic as it should be, but I'll start it off. Okay. And of course we have some piano music here, quite appropriately. It sounds okay, but not fantastic. I'm not sure I would have paid $500 for it, but there we are. Let's have a look at the volume control aspect of it at the front. So it is quite loud. Doesn't make a lot of difference actually, although it probably will if I close the lid. Let me try closing the lid. Yeah, I guess that makes the sound a bit more mellow, not quite as harsh. Of course we go into a quiet spot now, but there we are. So there you have it, $500 Grafanola Grand from 1912. So there you are.
Excellent. I wasn't expecting so much of a history of the progression from the outside horn to inside. That was excellent the way you put it together. Thank you.
Thank you.
Questions or comments from anyone?
Hey, lovely music. I love the music. Good job.
Yeah.
Sorry, Tom, I didn't mean to interrupt you, buddy.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Mike, was it in that condition when you bought it? Has it been restored?
Yes, I should. One thing I should have added to that. You may not know him directly, but in this area, a lot of us know Dominic DiBernardo, a club member who has one of the greatest collections in North America, and fortunately he lives not far from me. Now, I've got to tell you, my wife really isn't interested in phonographs at all. No interest, so doesn't get involved at all. But one day, I can't remember why, but one day she was with me at Dominic's place looking at all his phonographs, and he said, oh look, and here's one I've just restored. And we looked at this grand piano, this Grafanola Grand, and my wife just fell in love with it, and she said, we got to have that. So there you are. I think that's the only phonograph she's ever said that she wanted, and of course it takes up a whole chunk of space in the corner of our living room there. But that was the reason. So if she said she wanted it, well, you know, I had to buy it.
Hey, you never deny your wife a phonograph if they ask for it, right? So that's
right.
a very rare event. Don, you have a question? You'd like to make a comment?
Yeah, on the head, on the sound box, what did they use, a steel needle in there, or?
I put the steel needle in there. I tried it with the fiber because having played around with those fiber needles, I did try one. And then I thought, I don't want to wear it out. So, because it looked as though it was wearing as it was playing, so I just changed it back to a steel needle, and it sounded quite harsh to me, but I think it was partly the record and possibly the reproducer needs a bit of work. I mean, you demonstrated to us very well last time, Don, all the things that, you know, the variations between reproducers and also the state of them. So I could probably do with replacing the gaskets on that one.
What type of diaphragm was it a orthophonic or?
No, it's a mica.
Still a mica?
It's just a flat
Okay.
mica style, yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Speaking of the reproducers, Mike, I was wondering, this is the first phonograph I've ever heard of where they gave you two different reproducers. Do you know what the differences were between the two?
No, I don't, I'm afraid. It's the number 5 and the number 6 were the reproducers. I wonder if, I'm not sure if my book might tell me that. I never know. Oh, yes, I've got something here on Columbia reproducers. Yeah, the number 5 reproducer and the larger number 6 reproducer. So they're, I don't know if you can see this if I hold them. If I hold
No.
it up, camera, you can't
Okay.
see that. No. No.
Okay.
Anyway, they're just very, they seem fairly flat, basic reproducers here, just mica. They're very narrow, and yeah, the 5 is a smaller one, the 6 is a bigger one. Don't know why.
Okay. Mike, do you ever get people coming over and ask you to play the piano? Are they surprised when they find out what it is?
I can play it like an expert, yeah. No problem at all.
Any other comments? I thought it was extremely unusual machine. I've never seen another like that before.
Yeah, it was fun just sort of looking up the bit of history behind it as well, of how they evolved to that model. But of course, you know, they just took the matching or building something that fitted into your decor. They took it a step too far. You know, nobody was saying we actually want a desk to be a phonograph or a piano to be a phonograph. They were just saying we want mahogany, or we want Circassian walnut,
right,
or we want oak, and we want it to blend in. But Columbia took it a bit further, and I guess these things were just novelties for the very rich for a short time, and then they faded away.
Right. However, it did work on your wife.
Indeed, yes.
Don, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I find it amazing too to think for a 1912 phonograph being electrified like that.
Yeah. Yes, it was
being the first.
Yeah.
Mike, that was a great presentation. Absolutely beautiful machine. You're really lucky to have that.
Thank you.
And yeah, thanks for sharing that. I was wondering, has anybody actually seen a desk phonograph in person?
Has anybody
here?
Has anyone seen a desk phonograph in person? Anyone on the list here?
Okay, I have. They're completely impractical as desks.
Really?
Yeah, they're very, very small, and it's impossible for you to actually push a chair at it while sitting on it and sit in that little hole where you would think you could sit comfortably. It's absolutely impossible. It was just meant to be the shape of a desk, and it was never meant to be an actual desk. And just against the wall and maybe have an arrangement of flowers on it and things like that. I don't know what was supposed to go in there, but honestly, it's unless you're 6 years old, you could never use this as a desk.
Wow. Do you have one, Steve?
No.
You've seen them?
Even if I have the room for one, I don't think I would have one because they actually don't sound all that great.
Yeah.
No. I mean, mine sounded loud, and as I said, it would probably sound better with a reworked reproducer, but it's not that special. I mean, it's not $500 special.
Yeah. I think a little bit of a problem you might have had with the distortion was due to that you have an acoustic reproducer, but you're playing an electrically recorded orchestral piece, perhaps from the 1930s and 40s. So that's where you maybe have some overmodulation there. I think that's part of the
Good
problem.
point. Good point.
And that's also why your fiber needles may have been wearing out very quickly.
Ah, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Indeed. Yeah, good point.
So
Thank you.
so try it on a period record.
Yes, yes, I will. Yeah, I should do that. Yeah.
Okay, Don Mayer, I see you have a question.
Oh, not a question. I was just going to say
Comment?
that I had one of those large desk Columbias, the Columbia Regent, and I carried it around from house to house for many years, and actually was quite relieved when I got rid of it. It was heavy, and as previous speaker suggests, you couldn't sit at it. The hole underneath was so low that you couldn't get a chair in there. So it was a decorative thing. And if you had a collection of things that you wanted to put on the top and just use it as a horizontal support for something else, yeah, you could get away with it. But in a normal house, it really is a space hog. So.
Good to hear. Thanks. Any other comments? Okay. Well, Michael, again, thank you for doing the research, for doing the video, and sharing that very unique machine with us.
You're welcome.
Right. And again, to me, that's one of the benefits of doing these Zoom meetings. Like, we could have a meeting at Centennial or anywhere, but we're not certainly lug that into there to show it to us.
No.
So it's certainly a lot easier to do it with a video and then talk about it. Okay, so if there's no other comments, we'll move on to the last presentation, which is one that I'm going to be doing myself. So now I'm going from host to presenter. And I sort of got the idea. In the last meeting we've touched on some late 1920s, early 30s Victor products. And we had Jeremy Hopkins give us a really interesting tour sort of his unique machine. It was, what was the model? It was RAE 57. And he also went into the history of it and who owned it, the mayor of, I think it was Oshawa. It was somewhere out in the East End. Oh, maybe it was Scarborough. But anyway, it was a rich family that owned it. And this machine, besides being a radio, you could also record records on it, which was very unusual for the day. So I loved looking at these early electrical machines. And I had come across a video of a interesting machine. It's called the, what was it? The RAE, which I believe stands for radio, was it radio something? Electrola. Anyway, this one's a number 26 from 1931. And I've always enjoyed record changers and anything that involves mechanical handling of things, even cuckoo clocks and especially jukeboxes, gramophones, anything like that. So this record changer really caught my eye. And what I thought I'd do is go into a bit of the introduction of record changers and then this particular machine itself. And I'll point out certain things because we'll show the video. I'm not going to talk during the video at all. It's a very professionally done video that takes you up close as to how the mechanism works and some of the features of it. And it's very self-explanatory in itself. So these record changers came to be known as what they called automatic phonographs. And in the late 1920s, Victor had a very good research and development department, and they were the leader in the technology at the time. And they kept trying to come up with new ideas, and especially once they merged with RCA in 1929, they've now got the radio and electronic reproduction and the phonograph together. So the big news in the 1920s was radio and electrical recording. And if you think about it, when people buy a radio, they buy the unit once, they plug it in and they play it. But when someone buys a phonograph, the manufacturer is always able to sell them more software. So it's more lucrative for the manufacturer to keep pushing the phonographs because they can also keep selling you records. So that was part of it too, that they wanted to tap into that market. And if you think about it, people were getting spoiled by radio. Here we go from manual phonographs where you have to go crank it up, change the steel needle, put on one record, listen to it for 2 to 3 minutes, maybe 4 to 5 minutes if it's a 12-inch, and then it stops, and now you have to get up and do it again. Radio, you turn a knob, and it'll play for hours. So suddenly they were getting spoiled with that. So RCA thought, how about if we try to bring out a mechanism that can actually change the records on its own? And that way people can use their existing records and we can keep selling them more records too, and we keep the record market alive. But there was a lot for them to overcome in order to accomplish that. When you think of the technology of the time with a wind-up gramophone, to go from that technology to something that's going to play the records and take them out of wherever they're stored, put it on the turntable, play it, and then eject it and put the next one in place. There's a lot of mechanisms involved with that. Plus, the records themselves were never meant for that kind of operation. So you run into problems too in that there's no lead-in grooves. You've got a round, smooth edge on the record, and you can put a needle there, but it's just going to sit there until something pushes that needle into the record playing surface. And I'll point that out how they accomplished it in the video. So I got some notes here. I'm just going over. When Victor brought out their first record changer in 1927, which played automatically, it was just revolutionary. It really took the market by storm. It was a complicated machine, and they used it in several models. But it got so popular that Victor ended up bringing out a model with the record changer in it and a coin mechanism attached. And restaurants and bars were buying them to have it in the corner, and now they don't have to pay a house musician or a band to entertain, and people would just put money in to hear records being played. Later on, they got called jukeboxes, but this was the start of it all. So let's take a look at this unique model. It's a Victor REA26 radio phonograph, and the first list price for it was $247 US, and that roughly works out to around $42,000 today. So it was a sizable amount of money. And if you think about it, in the depths of the Depression, for someone to spend the equivalent today of $4,200 is an awful lot. So there weren't too many of them sold, and probably not that many of them survived. So we will focus on this particular model today. RCA really pushed the fact that the turntable could play both what they called standard records and as well as a new transcription records. And what transcription records were is 33 1/3 RPM records that were pressed on shellac and lasted about 20 minutes for a 10-inch record and 30 minutes for a 12-inch record. The groove width was about the same as standard records, and unfortunately the format failed for a number of reasons, and that record system in itself could be the subject of another presentation that I won't go into now, but just suffice it to say that the records didn't really catch on. Again, it's in the depths of the Depression. The record buying itself was at an all-time low, and then it's just the worst time possible to bring out a new format that you need a new turntable for. So, but Victor was pushing the fact that this was a two-speed machine, and it would have been a novelty in its day to put a record on and have it last for 20 minutes on one side. That was something in itself. The big feature, in my opinion, of this particular machine is the amazing record changer. And with the video, you'll get an excellent idea as to the operation of it. It's described, has been described as a, quote, mechanical work of art. All of the cams, linkages, gears, etc., were manually designed and manufactured by calculations on slide rules, graph paper, and lots of math. We sometimes forget this in our modern world, where everything is done with computers and microprocessors. So we take these things for granted. Another fellow jukebox collector I was talking to, he said, look at all the gearing. Look at how everything interacts with each other. Everything has to be the exact right diameter. The gears have to intermesh with each other at just the right time, at just the right speed. And all this was manually calculated by these engineers. So it really was an amazing feat of engineering for its day. This particular unit holds up to 10 10-inch records, and they can be stacked into housing, and it plays one side of the record. 12-inch records can be played, but they can only be played manually. And they even position the switches for the 10-inch and 12-inch so that you have to flick it into 12-inch, and then you won't be able to turn it back for the automatic position. But I'm thinking probably at the time, most of the popular records would have been 10-inch, so that wasn't really an issue. There is a switch for selecting 78 or 33 RPM. And again, 33 was unheard of for any anyone with a home machine at the time, although they had been starting to be used in radio stations and also the Vitaphone films for recording sound on film. But if you think about it, one of the problems of having a machine with a record changer that's going to play so many records is the needle. And apparently the weight of this tone arm is 4 ounces or about 114 grams, which was typical for the day and probably comparable to an acoustic gramophone, but it's incredibly heavy by today's standards. And normally most people track their 7/8 around 3 grams on modern equipment. So we got 114 grams versus 3 grams today. So if you think about it, you couldn't use a steel needle in an automatic phonograph because after 1 or 2 records, it's just going to wear out and someone's going to have to manually get up and change the needle. So that was one of the biggest obstacles that had to be overcome. And you'll notice in the video that the person who owns this machine is using a thorn needle, which is good, and that would last several plays. But what was done at the time was Victor came out with chromium needles, which I believe they're supposed to last for something like 50 or 100 plays. And then shortly after that, once jukeboxes started coming on and catching, there was a development of something called a permapoint needle, which was osmium coated, and they last a long, long time. So that really solved that particular problem of the heavy weight without having to change the needle. Another issue that had to be overcome was the records of the era didn't have the lead-in groove. And as I said, somehow you have to get that tone arm in there. Now, you'll notice in the video, when the tone arm lands on the record on the smooth part, you'll see it suddenly, it's like something underneath is kicking it. And I have some jukeboxes from the era, and what they have is there's a little weight that leans against a lever underneath the tone arm, and you can adjust the weight, and it just gently nudges the tone arm in. So if it lands on a smooth surface, it's going to be kicked into the groove. In the mid-1930s, the record manufacturers started putting a lead-in groove, so you didn't need this feature, but that solved the problem. I think the tone arm itself is a work of art. I've never seen one of these in person, and it looks like such, I guess, very artistic with all the design on it, yet very big and bulky. And apparently the magnetic cartridges on them have to be rebuilt because rubber was used in them, and the magnets lose their magnetism over the years and have to be remagnetized. That's about the only problem with them. The owner did comment in another forum that there's something like 12 adjustments that you have to make on this mechanism, and it's very finicky to align everything up and get it working just right. But once you do, it works like clockwork. So I hope you enjoy seeing this video of this 1931 Victor record changer as much as I did. And I've watched it numerous times and never get tired of it. And I hope you get as much out of it as I did. And you'll see it's very well done. And I should comment too, the sound that you're hearing is the actual sound of the unit. It's not something that was dubbed in later. They show towards the end of the video where they have 2 professional microphones in front of it recording the actual sound. So Mike, if you're ready,
okay,
we'll start this video. Ready to go.
else but you. I wanna be loved by you alone. I wanna be kissed by you, just you and nobody else but you. I wanna be kissed by you alone. I couldn't aspire to anything higher than feel a desire to make you my own. I wanna be loved by you, just you and nobody else but you. I wanna be loved by you alone.
What you think of it? Thank you. Thank you. Any comments about it?
I loved it. I loved it. Beautiful music. Loved every bit of it.
Thank you.
Found it interesting, Mike, in that the mechanics the mechanical engineering required in that to get the gear mechanisms working the way they did for that changer is amazing for that era.
Isn't it?
I rebuilt a 1929 broadcast turntable, a transcription turntable that also had the 33 1/3 and 78, and the gearing in that was a real challenge to try to get it working again. So it's amazing for that era that that amount of design went into the gearing systems.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
And to me, I just found it just so amazing. Just watch this thing operating like clockwork. Everything comes in perfectly timed and flawless. It's just beautiful.
It seems so ridiculously over-engineered.
Yes.
How intelligent they were to come up with this. And why did it take them decades to come up with a single spindle and a stabilizing arm? Why? Did nobody ever stop thinking too much about this and say, why do we have to go to all this bother when really all we need is a simple rod with a simple push pin to drop and a stabilizing arm that we know well from the 1950s through to the 1980s to keep the stack steady. In fact, there was even in the 1950s an RCA jukebox. It was a countertop machine that stacked 45s, and it would restack them by having control arms come up and then just push the records up to the top of the stack again. And it was that simple. It was a little jukebox, the Aristocrat or something like that, I think.
Yes, it wasn't Aristocrat. I don't think it was made by RCA. They were a separate manufacturer, but I know the one you're talking about.
But they used the RCA mechanism, didn't they?
Oh, did they? Okay. I don't think they did, but it doesn't matter. But I know the point you're making. I almost wanted to have a picture or a quick video of a more modern record changer even from the 70s, how simple they were, but effective. And that's the thing that got me with this changer, that it's just so mechanically complex, but fascinating to watch.
Oh, yeah.
Anyone else? Don, you wanted to say something?
Well, I nothing I've really acted on, but if there's any record changer collectors, perhaps like yourself out there, I'll just put it out there that I have a 1940 RCA QU8, and you may not have heard of it, but it's a monstrous machine. Comes with the original Velocity Junior ribbon microphone. I think it's about 50 watts. I think it's about 24 tubes in it. It is an auditorium quality unit. So QU8, if you're interested, shoot me a note.
I have a comment too.
Go ahead, Tom.
Really good video.
Yes, wasn't it?
Yeah, I have a turntable, like a wind-up gramophone turntable, a Gerard. Is it a 10B or a 20B? The fairly big one that I bought some time ago, and it came in a case that had a little tube amp in it and things. And this straight from the factory, this Gerard turntable from I think 1929, has 33 and 78. And this is before I was on the Talking Machine forum or anything, so I'd sent pictures of it to Andy Briggs, and because he was interested, and he said he posted them on the Talking Machine forum, and there was some interest. And then Graham Rankin had contacted me too. He wanted to hear more about it, but and I looked on the Talking Machine forum and haven't been able to see it, but maybe I should do it, because it will play it. You can adjust it, when you set your speeds, and it'll play 33 and 78. And someone thought it was 4 because there was a line out for a speaker, this little amp. Somebody thought it was maybe for early talkies, where the player had to change the thing, and so they were on 33. So I'd be interested. I wouldn't mind getting a 33 RPM 78. I mean, I wouldn't pay hundreds of dollars for one like a lot of records are, but just because eventually I might put this machine in something, or if there's anybody who really needs one.
Tom, how about I talk to you about that at a later date? Maybe we can work on something, getting a video or whatever of it.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I wanted to add that my original intent today with showing this machine was going to be to also compare it to the second changer that RCA brought out, and I think it was in 29 or 28, something like that. And in comparison, like the second one still played acoustically, but was of course driven by electric motor. And the second one was so sluggish and took so long for it to change each record that it probably would have been faster to just do it yourself. But it was amazing how much they improved the mechanism from the second to the third edition, which the one we just saw. And again, I know if I had one of these things, I'd have the lid open and I'd just be staring at the mechanism all the time. And along similar lines, there's so many other record changers of the period, especially K parts. And then once you start getting the jukeboxes, just watching all the different ways that they devise to change 78 records to make them a lot more user-friendly. It's a fascinating field that you can look into. But I thought it'd be something that's interesting to bring to this audience today, just to show some of the technology they had there. Anybody else want to say something? Go ahead.
I have more. Steve O'Neill said, like, why couldn't they figure it out earlier? And I've had similar feelings about how certain bits of technology and history don't seem to be synchronized, because in 1916 we had wind-up gramophones, which are pretty reliable. 1916 motorcycles, if you were to own and ride one now, like, it's a lot of work to make that thing go and start it and run it. And yet in 1916 Albert Einstein published the theory of relativity. It just seems odd that if we're having the theory of relativity, we still have wind-up gramophones. It just doesn't seem right.
Yeah. Good comparison.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Okay. I know, again, because I like all these automatic changers and things, Steve was mentioning about the progression. Why did they do it simpler? I know you probably, if you're a record collector, you probably have RCA sleeves where they say, buy the new RCA Magic Brain. And that was a unique changer. It came out in the early 40s, and it had a tone arm which had a needle on both sides of it. So it can play, it would lift the record up in the air and play one side of the record and then drop the record and play the other side of the record. And they're apparently very complex things to keep running, but there are videos of them on YouTube. So it's just a fascinating era and aspect of record changes, record playing to explore, which we could look at in future videos if there's an interest in it here. But I hope everyone enjoyed the video. And what particularly impressed me was just the way it was done. And someone made a comment, this is the way to produce a professional looking video. That's just the close-up of all the parts, labeling them, describing the mechanism, the cycle. It's just very well done. Yeah. So if there's no further comments from anybody, what we'll do now is take a short break, and then we'll be returning with our auction. And again, we don't have too many items, but there are some very interesting ones in there. And so chat away online. I'll be here. And just, if you want to say anything, just speak up. So go get a coffee, a Coke, or whatever you drink. And we'll see you, let's see. So I got 2:50 according to my computer. So in about 5 minutes, so roughly 2:55 Eastern Standard Time. Thank you. And Mike, I guess you'll get up the items for auction for us.
Yes, I'm just going to get things ready for the auction, yeah.
Good seeing you, Mike. Good seeing you, my friend.
Yeah.
Pardon me?
I'm talking to Mike Brian.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, thanks, Rich. I was just trying to get the thing ready for the screen ready for the auction there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Richard, do you know, did you do something different today? It seemed to have gotten all straightened out for you quickly.
Well, I just kind of was just a little more careful. I knew from last time that I duplicated the meeting thing, which is why you had the double sound. So I just took one of them out, and then
Perfect.
Yeah.
It seems once you did that, then all the problems were solved.
Yeah, seems so, Mike. Let's hope it continues this way.
Awesome. Great. Have you had any luck trying to track down that one last record?
Not really. I don't even know what the cover looks like. I have no idea. Apparently it's a very rare one. If I can ever find it, I hate to admit it, but I may end up having to pay a little more than I don't know. Time will tell. I may never even find it, Mike. I don't know.
Yeah.
At least I found everything else, which is a very good thing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
The other thing you have to confirm is that it was actually issued, because sometimes they'll assign a record catalog number, and for one reason or another, it doesn't get released.
Well, another thing too, Mike, I have to point out to you, and I think there was 8 of these albums made, and I think the first 5 of them, there was a lot of interest, but in the end, the 6th and 7th volumes weren't really there wasn't really no major interest. And volume 8, the only reason why that's out there was because it was the last album. I found the volume 7 one, but the thing is, I had to pay $200 to get it. The guy was from South America. He wanted $400, but I talked him down to $200. But
that's good then.
The way I see it is because I never saw it before. So, I mean, I may never see it again. So sometimes you have to just bite the bullet and pay a little more than you'd like. Either that or never find it. It's one or the other.
I fully agree, and I always say you'll come across $200 a lot more quickly than you ever will another copy of that record.
That's right. That's right. And the only reason why I found that VXL 7 Dance Party album was because there was another guy on Discogs who had it. He didn't want to part with it.
Right.
He told me there was somebody who had it for sale last February, and I talked to the person. They wanted $400, but he was nice enough to go half for me. That worked.
Yeah.
Now there you go. So I only have one left to find, buddy.
Yeah.
See what happens.
I have to give you credit. You're a good digger.
I tried. I really did.
You're almost going to run out of a reason for living if you ever get that last record.
Not really, Mike, because I learned as I grown older, buddy, the important thing is set your heart's affections on God, not on material stuff.
Yeah. No, I was joking, but
it's all right. That's okay. I have a good sense of humor. You can joke with me anytime, Mike.
Okay. Don, you wanted to weigh in on that?
Richard, do you have an example of one of those that you could hold up to your screen so I can do a fast screenshot?
Yeah, let me hold on for a minute. I'll take one out.
You never know.
Okay.
Yeah, they're unusual. There's 16 RPM, I believe, 12-inch records by Vox, VOX. Came out in the late 50s, and the speed was starting to die by then.
Here we go.
Oh, too close. Maybe back up a bit. Maybe back up a bit more.
Okay.
Is that okay, Don? No, I can't read the writing.
Back up a little bit more. Lower it a little bit. Lower it a little bit for me. Lower.
Lower it down, Richard. No, lower your hands. That's it. Oh, you had it. Back down. About right there. That should do it.
Okay.
Okay, hold it.
He has to say something so that his screen becomes active.
Oh, okay.
It's the Tchaikovsky. It's the very first one that was made in 1957.
Can you lower it just a bit more? We're missing the top part. There. Oh, no, up. There. Right there. So that's 1957?
Yes, it is.
So that I can see you.
You can't see it still?
Yes, we could see it well.
Okay.
Don, is that enough for you?
As soon as you say something, Mike, it flips to you and I can't see it.
I'm sorry. I'll be quiet. Okay, Richard, say something.
Okay, well, this is the very first box album that was made in 1957.
Can you show me what the record label looks like while you're at it? Can you just pull it out of the sleeve?
Yes.
And can you pull the record out of the sleeve just so I can see the label on it?
Yes.
Okay, holes. Got it. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. Yeah, it's
So that's volume 1, and which number are you looking for?
volume. I'll show you the there's a VXL sheet that comes with the album too. I'll quickly show you that while I'm at it. It talks about what's on the album.
Right.
Got it? See it?
Yep.
Okay. So now you know, you have an idea what I'm looking for.
Okay. But what number are you looking for? Like
I'm
that's
looking,
volume 1.
Yeah, I'm looking for VXL 6 piano concertos.
6. Okay.
Right.
And so it'd be very similar to that one.
Yes. Yes, it is.
The uniqueness about those 16 RPM records is that they would play for so long, and unfortunately the format just didn't catch on.
Yeah, well, yeah, they're just very, very tough to find. You know what I mean? They're just extremely hard.
Right.
You know, some more harder than others. You know what I mean? Depends on, like I told you, the VXL 6 and VXL 7 copies were the rarest ones. If you want to, I can show you the dance party one.
No, you know what, Richard? I realize we're past our time now for the auction.
No problem. That's fine.
But it was nice of you to show us that one.
Sure.
And Don, I'm sure if you could come up with anything to help, he'd be most appreciative.
Very much so. Thank you. Appreciate that very, very much.
You're most welcome.
Okay, can you hear me better, Mike, with this?
Yes, I can hear you fine, Mike.
I put the headset on.
Mike, I can't, maybe can you lower your camera a little bit?
Yeah,
much better.
It keeps on slipping up a bit.
Oh,
yeah, that's better.
Perfect.
Yeah, got it.
Thank you. Take it away. Thank you.
I was losing, wasn't I? Okay, so should we start the auction? Everybody ready? Got your checkbooks out or your cash in hand? Let's go to the auction and get it going. So here we go, our last auction of the season. So this is your last chance, of course, to buy anything before we get back together in September. So there's some great, really interesting items here for sale. And the first one, lot number 1, is 5 facsimile phonograph catalogues, 164 pages in all. As you can see, they are the improved gramophone original catalogue from December 1900, the Victor disc talking machine, Eldridge Johnson, spring 1901, Canadian Berliner gramophones and sundries from 1902, and the Bettini microphonograph catalogue, 40 pages from 1902, and the Victor catalogue 1909, 32 pages. So that's quite a lot, isn't it? Look at that lot. 5 really interesting catalogues. They are copies, they're not originals, but it's just great to have the information that's in them. So these are being offered by Alan Koenigsberg of Brooklyn. Alan has long been one of the foremost authorities on phonographs and phonograph history, and he's contributed enormously to the knowledge and understanding and documentation of the history of antique recorded sound. So Alan has reproduced these, and he's offering to sell them by auction now, which we're going to do, but the proceeds he's donating to CAPS, which is very kind of him. So what we will do, the winning bidder can simply contact Bill Pratt and establish how to make the payment to CAPS, and then Bill or the buyer can work on the contact with Alan to get them posted at no charge from Brooklyn to wherever you are. So let's start this off. This is a pretty special bunch of catalogues that are hard to find even in reproduced style like this, and certainly not, you wouldn't find them as a collection like this. So
Mike, can I interject? I remember when Bill was telling me about this, apparently these were very, very limited editions, and he just happened to have some extra copies of them left, so they have not been available for years.
Right.
And Bill, I don't know if there's anything else you can add about the catalogs themselves. If you're there, Bill. Maybe he's not there. But anyway, they're apparently quite rare.
Yeah.
Nothing to add over what you're saying.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bill. So why don't we start this off at $50 for the whole set of catalogues that you would spend years trying to find one at a time. So do I hear a bit of $50 for the 5 catalogs? That's just $10 each. That's nothing. $50 for the catalogs. How about 50? $50 anywhere? All right, we'll do it the hard way. $20 for the catalogs. Proceeds are going to CAP, so it's a worthwhile cause. You get the catalogs and you make a nice contribution to the club. $20 for the 5 catalogs. $20 anywhere? $20. Now 10. All right, let's go $10. $10 for the catalogs. $10 for the catalogs.
I'll go in, but I'm not sure about how big they are, or like what are they?
I don't know. I'm thinking of the Berliner Gramophones one, the white with the blue printing on it. I'm seeing that as, I'm guessing here, Tom, but I'm seeing it as sort of 6 or 8 inches by 4 inches. It's not.
Yeah, that's right, Mike. They're about 6 by 3. Yeah.
Yeah, 6 by 3. Yeah.
Yeah. The Victor one in the bottom right is a little bit bigger, but the other 4 are about 6 by 3. Yeah.
Right.
And they have all those pages, 40 pages or whatever,
Yes.
30 pages.
Oh yeah, yeah. Oh, these are, not just flimsy, giveaways. This is the real deal. These are the proper catalogues of what was available at that time.
I'm sure I'll be outbid, but put me down for 10.
Okay, we've got $10 now, 15. $10 now, 15 anywhere. Yeah, as you just mentioned there, Tom, the number of pages in these things. Let's just be clear. These are not just sort of little handout brochures. 40 pages in one of them, 20 pages in another, 32 pages, 40 pages, 32 pages. I mean, there's 100 and something pages here. So $10 we've got. $10 we've got for Tom. Now we're looking for $15 anywhere. They'll be sent to you postpaid from Alan Königsberg in Brooklyn. $10 now 15. $10 now 15 anywhere. Well, I'm going to bid 15. Sorry. I'm going to bid 15 now. $20 anywhere.
I'll go to 20. I was just about to hop in and bid 15 because 10 isn't enough. So put me down for 20.
All right, Tom's in for 20. Right. Any advance? You're out of my league now, Tom.
I'll just interject that these are a bargain at that price. Somebody should snap them up if they don't have them.
That's right. Yeah. $20 we have now. 25. 20 now 25. 20 now 25 anyway. $25. $25. All right. I'm going to go 25. $25 I bid. Now 30.
30.
Mike? All right. Was that Tom again?
Yes.
Yeah. Tom's in a 30 now 35. 30 now 35. 30 now 35. Are you really going to let these go? Because you can buy them, and then when you've enjoyed them, you can sell them. All of these things you can put back in the auction on another occasion. I mean, you can even make your own copies and put these back in the auction. So anyway, we have $30. We're looking for 35. $30 we have from Tom. $35 anywhere. Last chance.
I'll go to 35, just because whoever is donating them has been so good. I mean, we should get that. So I'll raise my bet to 35. 35.
All right, Tom. Well, thank you. Well, I still have to ask for more bids. I appreciate your offer, but Tom is in at $35 very generously, and with an understanding of what these are really worth. And now I'm looking for somebody could steal them from him if they wish at $40. 35 now 40 anywhere. 35 now 40. Sold to Tom. Thank you very much, Tom, for $35.
Thank you, Tom.
So Tom, work with Bill for payment to CAPS, and then you can see Alan Königsberg's information there. You can write to Alan and say, I am the winning bidder, and have paid $35 to Bill Pratt. Please send me the catalogs. Okay. You okay with that, Tom?
Email.com. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Great. If you have a problem, talk to me or Bill. We'll help you out. But I think that should be fairly straightforward. Alan's a no nonsense guy. He knows what he's done, and he'll know exactly what to do. So there we are. Okay. Well done. Thank you. So thank you for that contribution to CAPS. So let's move on to lot number 2, an original 32-inch Nipper dog made by the Rubber Guild in Montreal. good condition, all original paint, dark brown ears and so on, with no touch-ups, an original maker's decal. So it's in good condition. And as you know, we often come across the smaller nippers, but to find an original 32-inch nipper is really something else. So if you only ever have one nipper, this would be the one to have, particularly because it's from one of our members, and well, for some of us it's local here in Toronto, but it's a 32-inch nipper and an original, so a great thing to have. So why don't we start this off at $500? $500 for the original 32-inch nipper. That's a big dog. So here, $500 anywhere. $500. You know these things go for big money. This isn't a $50 item. We have $500 anywhere for the original nipper. No? All right, we'll do it the hard way. 200. 200 to go. $200 for the original nipper. No touch-ups, no messing around, and made here in Canada, in Montreal as well, which is nice. Original 32-inch. Just imagine that. Stand that by your phonographs in your basement or in your living room, wherever you keep your phonographs. It's a really nice thing to have. And this in fact, at this size, 32 inches, it would be a good guard dog, wouldn't it? I mean, that's going to put the frighteners on anybody breaking into your house. So there we are. $200. $200 for the nipper. Nope. I got to tell you here, I don't think we'll take it any lower, because the minimum on this is $650, which is a very fair price, considering it's Canadian dollars and there's no tax attached to it, and it's just buyer selling, or sorry, seller selling to buyer as a private transaction. So if you're interested in nippers, you can contact James Weeks there. You can see his details and get in touch with him directly. So yeah, difficult thing to ship, so obviously it would be better if it's a local sale. Okay, let's move on to item number 3, and here we have a collection of Brunswick records, and we'll look at see what they are. Hot Roasted Peanuts by Gene Rodemich's orchestra and Dream Daddy and Carl Fenton's orchestra. Dog on the Piano. Yeah, it's all pianos today, isn't it? By the Isham Jones Orchestra. When Will I Know by the Oriel Terrace Orchestra. I think Matthew played us some Oriel Terrace in one of his previous presentations, didn't you, Matthew? I've got the Wonder Where He Went and When He's Coming Back. Home Again Blues, Baby Love Tales, St. Louis Gal, Oh Sister Ain't That Hot. There you are, you can read them for yourself. Lots of great records. Yes, they can be shipped. And why don't we start these off at, well, we have 8 records. Why don't we start them off at $80? $80 for the records, just $10 each. How about that for some pretty special records? $80 for the records. All right, we'll start it off. We'll go the hard way. 30. Try it at $30 for 8 records. $30 for the 8 Brunswick records. All good dance band acoustic records from the early 1920s. $30 for the records. 20. Come on, let's see if we can get a bid at $20. $20 anywhere for these nice records. Any bids? Give me a bid. Just try. You never know. Just try me with a bid if you're interested. Anybody interested in Hot Roasted Peanuts or Dog on the Piano or St. Louis Gal? Nope. No bids? Did I hear somebody just about to make a bid there? No, I didn't. Nope. Okay, sorry. We'll move on to the next item. Now, look at this. Lot number 4. I don't know how many of you will ever have seen one of these in the flesh, but this is a very rare, very exotic phonograph, the EMG, and this is the Mark 10B. These were handmade, and interestingly, as late as 1934 with an external horn. So I'll just read what we have here. It's a very special item with a unique history. This one was supplied to the Record Reviewing Committee of the Gramophone magazine in London, UK, where it was used for reviewing all new 78 RPM records until the end of that era in the 1950s. EMG fitted it with an electric motor to save them a lot of winding. So it has a British 230 volt motor, but it comes with a small transformer to run it at 115. It has a ball governor to adjust the speed. The papier-mâché horn, look at that huge horn, measures 28 inches across and was the largest size horn produced as standard by EMG, though a few even larger ones were available to special order. These were known as Mark 10B oversize. The case of the MG, listen to this, the case of the MG is veneered with burr walnut and cross-banded with mahogany. The horn is the horn is covered with alligator pattern paper and gloss varnished. So we can take a look at this and maybe click on these to see them as bigger items. And we just open that up a bit so that you can see it. So, whoops, there we have the exotic case. I don't know how well you can see it there, but remember it was burl walnut with mahogany. Look at that tone arm as well. Very interesting machine. So, all right. So I'll just go back. How do I get out of that? By doing that. Yes. So there we are. Why don't we start this off? This is a very special machine. I've seen a lot of phonographs and I've traveled to a lot of places and seen some amazing collections, but I've never actually seen one of these in the flesh. So I expect a lot of you haven't either, but it's a very special machine. So why don't we start it off at $5,000? $5,000 for the EMG Mark 10B handmade gramophone from 1934. Do I hear $5,000 anywhere? $5,000 for the MG. All right, we started at 2,000. We started at the price of a, let's say, a more ordinary phonograph, but let's see if we can get any interest at $2,000. Do we hear a bit of $2,000 anywhere? Any interest?
I'll bid 2,000.
Sorry, who was that?
Don Mayer.
Don Mayer. Hi, Don. Thank you. We have $2,000 now. 2,500. 2,000 now. 2,500. 2,000 now. 25. Now you know this would be an absolute steal, but why not? Let's see how far we can get with this for this extremely rare and special machine. You're not going to find another one in Canada, and I think these things sound amazing as well. So we're at $2,000, looking for 2,500. 2,000 now. 2,500. $2,500 anywhere? 25. 25. No. All right. Don, I'm going to tell you that the minimum on this is $7,500. So you're a little bit out. I'm not sure if you want to make that bid, or if you would like to contact, if you're interested in pursuing it further, in the same part of the world as you is David Evans at the Mechanical Music Museum in, I think, a bit north of you. Yeah?
No, it's okay. I'm fine. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. Okay, well, if we can't get a bid on that one, let's move on to the next item, which is lot number 5, which is a 10-inch record, Sister Rosetta Tharpe and Sam Price singing "Don't Take Everybody to Be Your Friend" and "When I Move to the Sky." Obviously a blues record. This is one of Danny has brought lots of interesting records to us over the last few meetings. Really good blues records, and so here we have Sister Rosetta Tharpe. Why not? Let's start it off at $10. $10 for the Rosetta Tharpe and Sam Price record. $10 anywhere? $10. $10 is in good condition. $10 for the record. All right, $5. $5 for "Don't Take Everybody to Be Your Friend" and "When I Move to the Sky." Give me a bid. Any bid will do. Do I hear a bid? $5. $5. $5 for a nice bit of blues. Nope. Okay, we'll move on to the next one. Lot 6. I can just tell you on that one. Sorry, I should just go back and tell you that the minimum on that one is $10. So if you're interested and you think about it afterwards, you can contact Danny. I don't think Danny's with us today. He couldn't get internet today, but you can contact Danny at the phone number or the email address below. All right, I'll move on to the next item, which is lot number 6. Again, Sister Rosetta Tharpe singing 2 little fishes and 5 loaves of bread, and strange things happened every day. So again, another blues record, one of Danny's great blues records. You can pick it up, or it can be shipped, and it's been pretty good condition. So there we are. Why don't we start this one off at $10 as well. $10 for the Sister Rosetta Tharpe record. $10 for lot number 6. $10, $10 anywhere? $5? $5? $5, $5? Nope. Any interest? Give me a bid. No bids? All right, we'll move on to lot number 7. This one, Bessie Smith. So this is by Bessie Smith, Empty Bed Blues Part 1 and Empty Bed Blues Part 2. So if you like the first side, you're bound to like the second side, I would think. In very good condition, another one of Danny's blues records. Why don't we start this one off at, this is a bit more, a $20 record. Let's get it going at $20 for this Bessie Smith record. Do I hear $20 anywhere? Give me a bid. $20. $20, $20. $10. $10 to start then. Empty Bed Blues Part 1 and Empty Bed Blues Part 2. Nice Bessie Smith record. $10 for the record. Give me a bid.
Steve O'Neill, $10.
$10, Steve. Thank you. Now 15. Steve's in at 10. We're looking for 15. $15 for Empty Bed Blues. $10 now 15. $10 now 15. Nope. Steve, I got to tell you the minimum on this one is $30. So if you're interested, I suggest you contact, I was going to say Bessie. probably contact Danny. I'm not sure that Bessie's around anymore, so Danny might be better. Anyway, or you can bid $30 and it will be yours right now.
No. Not right now.
Not right now. Okay. All right. Okay. Well, thank you for the bid anyway. Let's move on to lot number 8. Which is Bessie Smith again. So St. Louis Gal and Sam Jones Blues. So why don't we start this one off at $20 for this nice Columbia record in almost excellent condition. So $20 for the Bessie Smith record, Columbia Flag 13005D. $10. $10 for this almost excellent record. $10, $10 anywhere. Could be a bid. $10. $10 we're looking for. Bessie Smith, $10. $10, $10. Any bids? Nope. Okay, we'll move on to lot number 9. I can tell you on that one, if you're interested, that was $20, the minimum on that one. So on to our last item, which is lot number 9, Mamie Smith and her Jazz Hounds, Remorseful Blues, and Just Like You Took My Man Away From Me. So another great blues record on Ajax Records, made by the Compo Company that Edgar Berliner ran, but was only sold in the USA. That's interesting. Good condition and great blues record again. So why not start it off at $20? $20 for the Ajax Remorseful Blues. $20 anywhere? Give me a bit. $10 to start. $10, $10. For Mamie Smith and her Jazz Hounds. $10, $10. Nope. No bids. Nope. Okay, well, I can tell you the minimum on that one is 40, in case anybody's interested in contacting Danny on that one. But Mike, that brings us to the end of our auction.
Okay, thank you, Mike.
Okay.
And thank you for the interest that people had in these items. We're going to wrap up our meeting for today, and I forgot to say partway through, I normally mention when the next meeting is, and it has been scheduled for September 11th. So again, there will be a break for the summer. And again, at this point, I'm always asked, is it going to be in person or is it going to be in Zoom? We don't know. A lot of it's going to depend on what's happening with the pandemic. I've heard, just as some of the experts say, that they're expecting another wave of COVID in the fall, but I'm not sure how severe it's going to be and when it's going to happen. And part of it's going to determine too as to whether or not Centennial College, where we hold the meetings, is going to allow us to come in, as we're just a small group that meets on Sundays. So
What
their
happens
main
though
goal.
if you do have it, Mike, and it's not
Pardon
a
me?
Zoom meeting? The only thing I'm concerned about is I can only do Zoom meetings. So if you guys are going to have it first locally, then what?
Richard, everybody probably, most people today probably feel the same way.
Okay.
So our commitment is that if we do go to the local meetings, we
Mhm.
will be able to also offer some kind of Zoom participation with it
Oh,
too.
great. Very good.
So we haven't worked it out yet because we don't know for sure what's going to be happening in September. And we'll know better as the date approaches and Centennial College gives us an idea as to whether or not they'll even allow us in there. But one way or another, we
It'll
will
be
be
win-win.
having a CAPS meeting on September 11th, 2022.
Hopefully it'll be a win-win situation, buddy.
For sure.
Yep.
So I wish everybody a very safe
You too.
and happy, restful summer. And hopefully you're
too.
going out there looking and digging up all kinds of records and gramophones and whatever
see.
else is related to the hobby, and that you enjoy yourself.
All right.
So thank you very much for joining us today. It's nice to have you participate.
Likewise.
Everybody,
Yep.
thank you.
Mike.
Have a
Bye.
great
Bye all.
summer.
Thank you, Mike.
God bless.
And get well soon, Jen.
Yes.
Get well
Yes.
soon. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, guys. Great to see you all.
Likewise.
See you too.
Good seeing
Have a
you.
great summer.
Bye, everybody.
Okay. Bye. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Stay safe. Thank you and goodbye.